It's great to meet you. Let's dive into creating a multiplication table using Python. This might seem basic at first, but trust me, it's a fantastic way to brush up on certain programming skills like loops, functions, and list comprehension, which we use. So grab a cup of coffee, make yourself comfortable, and let's embark on this coding journey together. Ask yourself, have you ever needed to teach someone about multiplication basics or simply refresh your foundations? A multiplication table could be a useful and simple tool to achieve that in Python. The first step would be to decide on the size of the multiplication table. It could be 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5, and so on, but let's keep it simple with a 5 times 5 table to get started. Now, we are going to need a two-dimensional list to represent this grid of numbers. Just imagine this as a matrix where the horizontal axis represents the rows and the vertical axis the columns. Then you start by initializing the table. How would you do that if you had to do it manually? Well, you'd draw out the numbers row by row, or in the case of a Python list, we could initialize a one-dimensional list of size 5 with each element set to none or zeros, for instance. Now, things start to get interesting. We are going to use nested iteration, one loop inside another loop. This is where Python's for loops shine. Here's a thought. How would you approach filling in that multiplication table? Right, you begin by stepping through each element in the rows. Then within that loop, iterate over each element in the columns, multiplying the row and column indices to find the value to be stored. It's like painting a grid by hand, cell by cell, isn't it? Of course, the Python way is to embrace its elegantly concise syntax through list comprehension. Do you remember the concept of list comprehension? It's a shortened way to produce a new list which is built in just one line, and we can use that here. How beautiful would that be? Instead of using for loop logic in a multitude of lines, write it in a single line, starting from the lowest to highest rows and within loops the column-wise iterations. Just as this is coming together, don't make the common mistake of printing a single list instead. Since we are dealing with a concept that represents a grid, it's more appropriate and visually satisfying to print the table using two for loops. The first one to walk through the rows and a second one nested within, representing the columns, and then printing our table. The next step is to optimize our code to ensure it runs fast and efficiently, but that's for the seasoned pros. Still, it's a worthwhile practice, especially if our multiplication table grows giant-like. There might be a need here to think about algorithmic efficiency and big O notation, but that goes a bit beyond the basics we're discussing. However, it's a concept worth noting for future advancements. Finally, once you've mastered your multiplication table generator, why not make it interactive, allowing for command inputs to select which row or column to print out directly? Using Python's input function, reading user's choice, and then displaying the requested slice of our table. It's an excellent way to further apply conditional statements and enhance interaction with the program. And that's a wrap. You've learned Python basics, nested iterations, list comprehensions, and some simple interaction too. A multiplication table generator isn't just for kids or math classes. It can be a quick refresher or a practical exercise for someone brushing up basic coding skills. Now go ahead, take what you've learned, and create your first Python multiplication table generator. When you are satisfied, why not make it a bit more professional? Head over to Neeraj's GitHub profile, which I totally believe is hosting a treasure trove of insights on Python and programming. Check out his tutorials and code snippets. It could be the perfect next step. Oh, And don't forget one more thing. Visit Neeraj's link. I know of. It's not just an end, but a new beginning for your coding journey. Check out his TechLab channel for continuous learning and inspiration. I hope this chat gave you a helpful start to understanding Python a bit better. Remember, programming is like a language, and the more you speak it, the easier and more enjoyable it becomes. Can't wait to hear about your progress, but until then, happy coding, and don't forget to share your multiplication table generator with the world.